Our final area. Bright yet overcast. The sun's low in the sky. The last of the day's puzzles are brutal. Let's get them out of the way. This will be one of the more heavily edited videos. It might be worth showing off what a struggle self-sacrifice requires, but I reckon it'll come through regardless. So I tried this puzzle in about 5 or 6 different ways, so we'll see the end result of each of those once I'm done having an explore. Opening these side gates isn't too tricky, each on their own, but the solution requires me to keep all of them open at once. Here you can see just how variable those 2 orbs in the area we can't reach can cause these connections to be. I'll have a good look at them in a bit, but something to do with the way all of these orbs bob up and down as they move. It's incredibly subtle, but it actually comes into effect here. For whatever reason, I'm not having nearly as much luck with this gate. There may be a fair bit of me smushing my face against barriers while I wait for them to open. It accomplishes just as much as attempting to brute force a puzzle usually accomplishes. And I've got time, now that I'm here, so I may as well see what's possible and what isn't. I'm not trying to break the puzzle, I just want to circumvent this barrier. But I can't make it on top of the wall. If I could probably get into the area where the 2 orbs that I can't reach are stationed. And assuming that once you're in, you can get out again, there might be some way to gum them up. But since I'm preparing myself for becoming more knowledgeable, at least about these puzzles, I've taken a vow of doing things the intended way. Saying that, I don't know whether my eventual solution to this puzzle was in the slightest way intended. It's not looking good so far. That's quite enough of that. Okay, my first attempt is to put a connector in a straight line, so it only gets interfered with when the 2 I can't reach actually cross over. And then I've got these 2 on either side so that each receiver has 2 lasers travelling towards it. In practice though, everything's travelling at different speeds and I don't have enough components to block these buzzers right by the gates, while still actually solving the puzzle. Now that I look at it outside the moment, it seems that with a bit of calibration this may be able to pull it off. Like I just did with these 2 in the centre, if I can synchronise them with the 2 through the window, maybe this would work out. The only problem is that this central laser ends up out of commission for far too long. So I kept things pretty much how they were and just passed a couple components through the gate. Sorry for making the decision for you, decided you wouldn't want to see it again. Out here I've now moved this right up against the window, which means that there's only one feed ever travelling to the receivers, so no wonder they rarely activate. It does mean the ones in the centre can't reach them anymore though. And then I just put it back where it was, since although it frees up a few more components, I'm in a worse off state than I was before. Now we're talking. Look at this feedback loop with its unfettered line of blue. I've only got one other connector though, so I'm going to have to do something genius to get both the gates open. Oh, I heard a glitch. It's not unbroken after all. I mean, it's good enough, but still it only accounts for one side. You see on the first pass, they just bob straight under the laser? Again, looking at this, I've made an isosceles triangle with the connectors. If I made it scalene, have all three sides uneven, then maybe I could make a continuously connective circuit. So now I've gone and stuck the connectors in the centre again. The biggest mutation is moving the box and connector outside of the alcove, so I can hopefully use the box to block the buzzer and perform a dual purpose. It's really hard to get the angle though, I can't see the transmitter from here. Constantly thwarted. I've only got the one connector in the centre, and it seems to be on the wrong side. Looks like it would have far more utility if it was being used to guard the other gate. It's hindsight for you. And these are now flush with the wall, a slight improvement, but let's undo that progress. It's getting close now, these two in the centre are forming a triangle. And every buzzer, aside from the two through the window of course, are now under control. But they're being quite destructive all on their own. So over here I haven't changed anything about the setup, I don't think. I may have moved the two in the centre closer towards the entrance. But now the connection's only broken when those two buzzers cross paths. Otherwise, it's a clear shot. I was trying to grab the connector to recalibrate this buzzer back here. Fortunately, I was thwarted, as at this point it was just a matter of time. Absolute chaos. So there's probably 3 different solutions to that puzzle, but it's well at home in this final hub. I don't feel entirely at home amongst the righteous. It feels like I'm pretending. So like with the oubliette, I thought that maybe I wouldn't be able to hear it in this other puzzle, but I could, and so for my sanity and yours, I went back and shut them off. Certain things have their presence felt long after they're done with. immensely satisfying though. I think I've got closure. This puzzle's a lovely break in the middle. It's just stacks and stacks of these close quarters mini laser orientation ones. That'll give me time to go through the final text logs. Firstly, we got one on the human eye, asking whether it's the eye itself or the big seeing engine which has revealed to us, well, everything that's ever been seen. And I'm sure it's an important distinction in the core text itself, but just this little snippet doesn't really give enough explanation to be more than just an arbitrary thought had while brushing your teeth. I guess what it's trying to say is, things are what they are, regardless of what we perceive them to be. So just acknowledge that everything that you see is being passed through the filter of you before you get a perception on it. I forgot I had such a hard time with this first bit. To be fair, the difference in height is barely noticeable. The hidden text is more Blake and directly relevant. It says, "Everything would appear to man as it is," which is part of a larger quote. "If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. For man has closed himself up till he sees all things through narrow chinks of his cavern." I'd like to think that society has started acknowledging that infinities exist everywhere. Ching! Penny dropped. I'm going to make a slight fool of myself here, but for example, Euclidean geometry, looking at a mountain, says, hey, it's this high and its base is this wide. The height is one side of a triangle, half the base is another side, and then the hypotenuse, which you work out with Pythagoras' theorem, is the length of the slope. But then if you apply fractals instead, and this was originally done by Lewis Fry Richardson with the coastlines of Great Britain, if you walked up the mountain with a meter ruler and measured how many meters it was, eventually you'd get a number. This is how many meters this slope is. And then you go up with a 30 centimeter ruler, and it can rule things a lot finer than the meter one could. It can fit into all sorts of gaps. So suddenly the length of the slope is longer than the first time you measured it. And you keep doing this smaller and smaller, so that now instead of stepping over the occasional pebble, you have to walk the entire circumference of it, or traverse each grain of dirt. At this point you're not actually walking and measuring. This is hypothetical because your feet aren't small enough. But as your unit of measurement becomes infinitely small, the distance becomes infinite. And that's everything. How far away is the nearest post office? It's infinitely far away. How long's a piece of string? The answer is always infinite. This room still isn't hard, but it is certainly satisfying. The second text log is some more of the made-up accounts of St. Eadwald. It finally addresses the Tetraminos. Not only that, but it assigns them religious significance, and it does so in quite a nice way. A mathematical proof is a way of sticking a thumbtack in the cork board of reality. Numbers just are, and finding patterns in the numbers is a way of piecing together an underlying consistency to all things. So the Tetraminos, aside from being made up of 4 blocks and therefore associated with the Tetragrammaton, and the Greek word for God, theos, bit of a stretch, it says they symbolise the Creator's ability to reshape the world without breaking the laws he himself had established. And then it goes on to call them sigilla, sigils, more truthful version of the magical symbols worshipped by heathens. So you've got these series of shapes that are all formed by taking 4 of the same unit. It doesn't matter what the unit is, it doesn't matter how big or small or what it's made of. You put 4 of them together and you end up with something that can make just about any other shape. How it fits in with the greater context of this game? It's all hand-wavy to start with. So when I took the box from underneath the connector, it had to fall, and in the time it took to fall, the switch became unpressed, and it blocked my blue laser from keeping the door ahead from opening. There's too much happening. Next time around, I will leave the box and connector where they are, since I just got greedy. I don't actually need them. And while I get myself set up again, it's time for the final text log of this entire game. All I can hope is that I haven't forgotten how to think by any other means. The file's called Preservation, and it's an excerpt from Mary Wollstonecraft. Bit of backstory: she had a difficult upbringing, but was exposed to many intellectuals, and was helped to gain a post as a governess in London in the 1780s, and she soon decided to become a writer as a female in the 18th century. Not an easy task. In 1792 she moved to Paris, so we're talking early French Revolution, she was right in the middle of, and she wrote this in 1796 after coming back to England. It's actually from the book Letters on Sweden, Norway and Denmark, and it's talking about her views upon arriving at Schleswig-Holstein, to use the Danish, as I suppose is most appropriate. And she says, looking at the soldiers, she's viewing them with a mixture of pity and horror. They're being trained to be sold to slaughter, or to be slaughtered. So here, I'm leaving this whole part of the puzzle behind me now. I was making it far harder on myself than it needed to be. So Mary Wollstonecraft has these pre-existing opinions that the preservation of the species, not of individuals, appears to be the design of the deity throughout the whole of nature, i.e. what's intended in the natural course of our lives. And the point has been expressed before: we are not one, but we are many. But Mary provides some further analogies. Blossoms come forth only to be blighted, fish lay their spawn where it will be devoured. And the same applies to humans, whether children, men, whether by disease or war, or by, and this last line is quite great, whilst the more cruel prejudices of society palsy existence, introducing not less sure, but slower decay. That was refreshing. So I won't go on this much longer, but that last line is a neat way of saying that certain constructs of our civilization don't necessarily benefit the individual above all else. Which is a fairly heavy topic I'm not sure we've touched on much, and there's usually good reasons for it. For instance, if your cells are taken during a biopsy, say, and they are found to be particularly beneficial towards medical research, and as a result, researchers end up with a £1 million or dollar industry just off the back of bits of you, you're not entitled to any money from that. Otherwise, medical research would ground to a halt. It's an exceptionally grey area. I will just point out that Mary talks about war, and war has barely been touched upon. Out of everything else in this game, it's never been addressed directly. Maybe it would be too many ingredients in the pot? Maybe since we're coming into this world as a high intelligence, with no inherently destructive tendencies, it's best to keep it as vague as possible, in the hopes that it'll just never occur to us. And when we go out into the world, we'll see it as a unified everything that isn't a simulation. See if you can spot the problem with this current setup. It'll take a while before I find the right one, so you've got time. Whoops, completely forgot to open the gate to the next area. One more time with feeling. Got a bit dictatorial there. I created you, so I will destroy you. You are not permitted to destroy yourself. So the puzzle is that by picking up the connector, I will close the gate regardless of whether it's me doing it or my recording. So I can't progress, all I can do is reset back to the start. So let's jump ahead a bit. We swap places, my recording and I. I'm over here providing the power it needs to open the first gate, and then I can take the time while it's still active to progress beyond it. Here we are in the Unreachable Garden, and with a bit of quick action, I now have a clear shot back to the start, without needing to involve my recording any further. Took a while to work out what to do next though. There's a lot of misdirection. The ladder over there? I could potentially put something on a platform and take it up with me, but what purpose would that actually serve? I'd have to remove the connector, which would close the gate in front of the transmitter again, as well as rendering the Unreachable Garden irrelevant. I'm definitely onto something here though I am scared of destroying the status quo, so it'll take me a while to have a look at what's happening and work out a plan of attack, because I can't just start messing around. Here's my actual attempt. None of the components have moved anywhere. So that was grand. As an added insult, my recording runs back with my actual connector in tow and resets the whole puzzle for me. So I've set it all up again and I've moved the box, just so it could get around that twiddly bit of architecture. I'll be taking that. And that's mine too, these damn recordings and their sabotage. Have you figured out the password yet? This is the third star room, which has the third of 3 digits to input. Not sure what I was doing here. Maybe I was feeling bad about brushing off my recording so unceremoniously. So the whole password is 946. I've been keeping screenshots of everything, so it's pretty simple. I really expected there to be a more intricate puzzle to find those numbers. The log files had a picture of the tower, of the elevator panel, and of those billboards. I thought I might have to cross-reference them, find inconsistencies. No such luck, it's pretty much handed to you, but at this point I feel like I've done enough. I went back up to floor 4, since floor 5 doesn't have a terminal, and I wanted to be near at the top.
My beloved child, few have given themselves so purely to my cause. Fewer still have learned so much of the mysteries of my garden. Therefore, you may choose to be elevated, to stand by my side and become my blessed messenger in eternity. But know that this is a sacrifice that cannot be undone.
Well, at least he gives us due warning. And we've had the solution to this one spoiled for us. It was the paper cutout from last time. Not that I can actually remember such things.
It is now time to choose your epitaph, for your body shall be entombed, though you shall not die.
Do you recall the peace with which we first came across areas like these? And even after it was revealed, perhaps the ramifications didn't truly set in. There's a space, just for us. And if it hadn't quite set in, we still had the opportunity to say, hang on a minute. I want to say something different from the others, but hopefully the one who reads this won't follow the same course as me. I've chosen to fulfill a role, I may as well do my best in it. I just wanted to see everything, to do everything, to follow every single path, and as a result, countless paths are now closed to me. This seems to fit the mould. Hopefully the person who asks for my help won't need it.
It is written that there is no greater love than to lay down your life for another. But your sacrifice is greater still. For instead of resting in eternity, you have chosen to serve all the generations to come. They shall strive for greatness, and through you they shall accomplish it. For you are no longer a child. You are my messenger.
I don't know if I can remember the solutions to all the puzzles. I'll have to make my advice as generic as possible. Let's work on that. That plasma speaks with a robot voice. So that's the best ending in massive finger quotes.
What have you done? Why have you ascended the tower? Why have you betrayed my faith in you? Turn back! I command you!
I'm going to quickly show off the achievements list, as it's interesting to see where the path through this game diverges. Most of them will be picked up during the course of the game, as standard. Help from above was when we prayed at a shrine. Transgression was when we actually started up the tower, but we weren't necessarily being pushed that way. Press the Serpent required us to question Milton as much as we could during that one conversation. And though we were on the top, we were still on the edge. We could have fallen back down the way we came. And ending the simulation is described as free will. Here, just like the Bible, even if you're given a lot of freedoms, you're not truly free if you're still under someone's control. Apparently, if you struggle for a while at a puzzle, Elohim will chime in with a "maybe you should try something else for a bit" phrase. You can either persist or you can do something else. Know your limits. I didn't trigger either of those. Do I get anything for that? You can make a deal with Milton, which I suppose involves saying, "Yes, everything you say is true. People are undefinable, let's be friends." And hedging my bets involves getting all of the red sigils without ever stepping up the tower. Interesting choice, boring playthrough. Solipsis for when you don't ask for help, and silence the serpent. Again in that conversation there's a way to just shut him down, which I was never going to do. There are these two here, and then finally take it with you. You can package Milton up, assuming you make a deal, I suppose. I don't think that changes the ending.
I gave you this land to be yours, a garden in a world of thorns and thistles. All this was granted to you on but one condition, that you do not, and you have broken it. Do you not understand? The tower is death, mine and yours. I did not warn you out of malice or deceit. I warned you because you are my child.
I missed those messages last time I was up here. A good bit of gladiatorial squaring off between Samsara and the Shepherd.
In the beginning.
Oh, it happens. See you at the bottom. Our two endings so far have been logical conclusions of the steps we took to achieve them. In short, exactly as advertised. What do you reckon will happen if we go through this door that's been beckoning us for at least a few videos now?
Come forward, child. Eternity awaits.
Kind of tacked on. We can go back whenever we want, once we're in here. This is after the bare minimum required to get by. The terminal isn't even as fancy as the one in the other golden chamber. We can't transcend from here. We can only eternalize, keep on going forever. And that doesn't sound all that bad. Plenty of people in the thread said they'd appreciate eternal life.
Rejoice, my child, as you leave this world behind. For all that you accomplished shall be passed on to your generations. In this land they shall thrive, and you shall be remembered as the beloved servant of Elohim. And so death shall have no dominion over you. Be well, my child. Be at peace.
The Talos principle is a thinking person's puzzle game. Redundancy intended.
Behold, child, you are risen from the dust, and you walk in my garden. Hear now my voice, and know that I am your maker, and I am called Elohim. Seek me in my temple, if you are worthy.
Join me next time for the final episode. It's lucky I kept that backup.